Square Enix's NFT project thing is officially over. Parasite Eve fans rejoice. The game that we all thought was going to be the glorious return of Parasite Eve, but just ended up being a crappy NFT project, Symbiogenesis, has ended. Thank fucking God. That's right folks, Symbiogenesis concluded its final chapter, Chapter 6, on the 31st of July 2025. With not really that much fanfare to be honest. Their Twitter is pretty dead, with none of their tweets in the last months having any engagement at all. Not even from NFT bots, which says a lot of the game's popularity. Just a quick pinned announcement of the end plus a link to the ending cutscene on their YouTube. And let's have a quick look at that. The video is titled Symbiogenesis, the ending movie from the World Mission. Couldn't even come up with a special title. Debuted to a whopping 3.7k views, with the comments turned off. Gee, I wonder why. The movie consists of still images of characters with accompanying text, and a credits montage of all the in-game CG, which takes about 5 to 6 minutes of the 8-minute runtime of the movie. Now, I didn't play the game much. On my video, covering the game, I played about 1 to 2 hours and completed a single chapter. So, I am the perfect person to analyze what the ending cutscene means. Alright, so the woman who is slowly dying from her wounds, this is the representation of Symbiogenesis itself. How it was basically taken out back and old yellered by Square Enix, so it can be left to rot and die off. This image of the mechanical arm and weapon of Chroma, who was the main character, who I guess died as well, this is a representation of the players, the dumb and gullible NFT investors of the game. Chroma, i.e. the people who spent thousands of dollars on crappy NFTs, is gone, no longer with us, and have pissed off away from the project. But the mechanical arm and sword represents their money, that is now forever stuck and wasted on this travesty of a video game. And finally, this image of a random old dude looking on at Chroma and the floating continent, this is all of us, just looking over at this mess and thinking, what the fuck happened here? And that is my deep and thoughtful analysis of whatever this is. But anyways, for anyone who made it this far but have actually no idea what Symbiogenesis was, it was Square Enix's attempt and bandwagoning on the NFT trend. It released on the 21st of December 2023, so it was only live for about a year and 8 months. And it was really nothing to write home about. It was a shitty visual novel, point-and-click scavenger hunt with some ARG mechanics. But of course, it mainly existed to peddle out NFTs, which consisted of the most generic, randomly generated characters. Seriously, they all looked basically the same since they had the same body composition and proportions. The only thing that changed was the hair, eyes, and accessories. It was all just randomly generated slop. And all you did in Symbiogenesis was look at your quest and click around this static image of a floating continent where you think the next quest trigger would be. I am not even kidding. That's it. Also, each click took stamina. Yes, this point-and-click visual novel had a stamina system, and you only had a limited amount, and they recovered once every hour. Not the entire thing, just a single point of stamina. You got 1 click per hour, and some quests had you click the same spot multiple times for no reason, other than to waste your clicks. I remember one quest very early on that basically made me use up 3 clicks, in other words, 3 hours just to progress. It was actually one of the dumbest games I've ever played. Games. And all you're given once you do a quest were these mobile gacha level visual novel sections that had no animations, no voice acting, and the worst visual effects imaginable. There were no combat mechanics. Just take a look at this part. They hyped up some fight with a dragon, which just ended up being these flashes and oh, combat's done. That's it. There was no gameplay. In fact, there was negative gameplay. What makes this funnier though was the ending event, the Stellar Wars. See, this game was touted as some community-driven narrative, where people would pool their points together to unlock things. And in the case of the Stellar Wars event, which, you know, sounds kinda cool, players had to pick one of 6 factions to put their points into, and that's it. The winning faction would choose a champion, in this case whoever spent the most money, plus 2 other players to finish the story. So this community-driven narrative was in the end just decided by 3 players. One player sure I guess was community chosen, but the other 2, who the fuck knows. I'm surprised there were even 3 players of this game by the end of it. And as for what their NFTs were or what they did, it was all of these static characters around the map. These characters that look like they're PNGs were just dragged and dropped in. They don't look like they're part of the world at all. But these characters were the NFTs. You bought them and, well, you don't really do anything with them since there's no gameplay. You can click on them to get some details and that's it. They're not playable. Also, one of the races was just called normies. Who wrote this? Someone thought this was a good idea. Now the only thing you got from buying these NFTs was a single line of lore. That's it. See this? These little lore entries? These were all you got for spending money on an NFT. There's one line that's publicly available when players pulled their points together to unlock it, but to see the other ones, you needed to own it. These NFTs reached hundreds and thousands of dollars, by the way. All that for a single line of lore. Let me think. Several full games or one line of lore? Choices. There were also other NFTs like artwork and in-game resources that did stuff, I assume. But here's the absolutely funniest and best part out of all of this. Symbiogenesis, the game, doesn't exist anymore. Yep, that's right. This visual novel web app has been completely shut down, removed from existence. Square Enix didn't even bother to create some offline mode to view the story after the fact. I tried searching for it on Google and no results came up. And then I tried to access their website via their Twitter and nothing, just errors. But of course their NFT collection is still available and you can still buy them for several $1,000s. Not like anyone is buying them, the top offer is $1.5 with only 661 owners. Damn, that's less owners than even Ubisoft's ones. How embarrassing. In other words, Square Enix just did a rug pull. They got people to spend money on their NFT project and then just peaced out. I mean, a fool and his money are soon parted. I can't even be mad at Square Enix, I gotta hand it to them. That's pretty fucking bold. But the entire NFT collection is now not only worthless, but it's also effectively useless. No utility, nothing, nada. But I mean, that shouldn't matter to NFT bros, right? Since true ownership is the only thing they care about. They still have their precious little receipt saying that they bought the JPEGs. Although, it's not like they can really do anything with it though, since they, don't actually own the copyright or anything. That's a separate thing. So, hooray, true ownership, yay! With that said, you know what I can do though? Hey look, I also have a $1,000 NFT, would you look at that? It's just that easy. For something that Square Enix and the Symbiogenesis team are supposedly so proud of, they really just happily shut it all down, huh? I mean, I'm no expert on website hosting costs, but I can't imagine this would have cost that much to upkeep and leave up for anyone to experience. But like I said, I'm no expert, so who knows. So that's Symbiogenesis, Square Enix's rug-pulled NFT project. Rest in piss, you colossal waste of space. By the way, did you know in 2022, Square Enix sold off 3 of their studios, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal, for $300 million so they could start investing in blockchain, AI, and the cloud? And did you also know that Square Enix had another NFT game called Shinsansei Million Arthur, based on the Million Arthur IP? In it, you apparently turned sushi into underpants, which would then become the NFTs. It released in April 2023, 8 months before Symbiogenesis, and terminated its servers a year later on the 1st of July, 2024. It had less of a runtime than Symbiogenesis. Damn, 2 failed NFT games from Square Enix. Maybe they'll follow in Ubisoft's footsteps and make a 3rd NFT game failure. After all, 3rd time's the charm. Thank you to all my channel members, all my subscribers, thank you very much. And to the rest of you, I hope you didn't hate the video. But that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and a sub if you did, and I'll catch ya on the next one. See ya!